before we went to break, we kind of talked about how Detroit may become a possible free agent destination, especially for guys looking for a prove-it deal. I think offensive guys, more specifically. Matter of fact, Lucas, if you don't have to do offensive line. If you want to jump to defense, some defense guys that might be on some prove-it deals.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did that, but I think on defense, my favorite definitely is Levante David, just because, like we talked about, if you can get a guy like that in free agency and not have to use that with the draft pick, not only is that going to be a great player, but it's also going to be a leader for those draft picks. And Levante David, former All-Pro, former Pro Bowler, former Super Bowl champion, he knows how to win. And if you give that to a guy, especially with like Malcolm there, if you let Malcolm sit and learn behind a guy with Levante David, by the time Levante David retires, Malcolm Rodriguez is going to be 2-3 years ahead of where he would have been previously. So that's just one that I can think off the top of my head.
For me, Levante David's more of like one of those like gyms, though, you know. And he might maybe return to New York. Isn't that where he was last time?
I'm not sure.
I think he's with the Jets, wasn't he? His previous year? Levante David.
I think he was always with the Bucks.
Oh, no, actually, yeah.
The
Jets had somebody else.
You're thinking of DeMario Davis, who's with the Saints now.
No,
he was a dog with the Jets for a little bit. You're thinking DeMario Davis.
No, I'm talking about someone who played for the Jets this year. But bring it back, I guess.
Quan Alexander.
Yeah.
More so, yeah, that's who it was, Quan Alexander. He's played the Bucks.
Yeah, he's been with Tampa for.
But that prove it guys. The type of guys that Brad Holmes gets. See what I'm saying? The Charles Harris.
Yeah, I'd have to look. I was looking at guards.
But you looked at receiver. We might be losing DJ Chark.
There's quite a few good, like, prove-it guys. A guy that, excuse me, was literally in DJ Chark's pretty much same exact position that he was last year coming in this game is a guy like Sterling Shepard that's going to be a free agent. Sterling Shepard, when he was healthy, showed that he can be a good receiver on the outside, showed he can do a lot of different things, be somewhat of a game breaker, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy these past couple of years. Much like a guy like DJ Chark. So if the Lions decide to pass on signing DJ Chark, I think a guy like Sterling Shepard could be very seamlessly integrated in the offense like DJ Chark was, and in the same type of situation where when he was healthy, he showed that he can be a factor. He just has been struggling with that, so he signed him to one of those cheap prove-it deals and hope that he can stay on the field.
Yeah, his career year, he had 872 yards in 2018, played all 16 games. 4 touchdowns that year, 8 touchdowns his rookie year. That's when OBJ was there, getting all them doubles and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not opposed to that one.
Shepard, CJ Snyder says Shepard is a possession receiver.
Yeah, we got that in Amon-Ra.
I mean, but we could use more of that. We've got the deep shot, and Amon-Ra is more of an underneath guy.
See, I'm looking more like someone to replace Chark, though. You know what I'm saying?
I got another one here.
All right, who you got?
Another one here, again from the Giants, a guy named Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton had showed that he can be a big play receiver when given the opportunity. He fell off this year for sure, but another guy that you could throw a prove-it deal at, see what he can do, see if he can kind of recapture when him and Danny Dimes were hooking up. Because the guy was making big plays. He just kind of fell back into the rotation because of some drop issues. But again, that's a type of receiver that you could pay a cheap contract to, bring him in here, see what he can do. If he doesn't work out, no harm, no foul, and you move on.
Okay. I went and looked at running backs just because Jamal is there. We have that offensive line. I think one thing that's important with this Detroit Lions team is to continue to they've established the identity of a punch you in the mouth, but now I think they're at the point where they need to maintain it. And I was looking at these running backs. One of these guys isn't so much Jamal Williams to punch you in the mouth, but 27 years old, had a personal incident that happened in the hotel, ended up signing with the Cleveland Browns. Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
Free agent this offseason. I mean, with this offensive line, I know we have Swift, who's kind of like similar, but if I'm being honest with you, I think Kareem Hunt's obviously proven to be, all due respect to DeAndre Swift, I promise you I'm a fan, but I think Kareem Hunt's a better version of that. I think he can run between the tackles as well. That's a free agent. Again, a guy that may be on that prove-it deal. He wanted to be traded from Cleveland at some point this season, too, because he wanted more money. Now, I don't know if Brad Holmes is going to pay him the money he's looking for, but if he's looking to prove himself as a lead back to get a deal, 1-year deal in Detroit, prove-it deal. I mean, that's what Brad Holmes is known for. Another one, which I think he kind of proved himself, actually. Dante Foreman is actually unrestricted free agent for the Carolina Panthers. I think Detroit Lions fans are well aware of what he's capable of doing. He beat the shit out of a defense that was actually, I don't know where they ranked in terms of stopping the run to end of the year, but they were damn good at stopping the run. I think that's, a matter of fact, what kind of placed them at number 4 in that DVOA from that week 10 to week 17. And then these ones, this one's a little bit more of a pipe dream. I don't know that he's going to be looking for a prove-it deal, but David Montgomery from the Bears is going to be. I think you and I
like David Montgomery.
I like David Montgomery a lot too.
I like Khalil Herbert more, but I like David Montgomery.
I don't know, man. I think if you let David Montgomery kind of just have like a Derrick Henry effect, and he gets stronger as the game goes on. And
I agree.
think they had to implement Khalil just because he's so
He's
much
so
of a
good.
playmaker, and they lacked it so much. Especially when you get behind, you're not gonna leave Khalil Herbert off the field. But if he goes to even if he were to still go to San Francisco and they do something with Elijah Mitchell and it would just be to him and C-Mac, it would be over with. I don't know how you'd be able to stop that.
Only 25 years old, and he's very much on a prove it deal. I feel like because he did get usurped by Khalil Herbert.
Yeah.
So I mean that's and it's, we're losing a bruiser. I'm not sure the Detroit Lions lose Jamal Williams.
Yeah,
But
no,
if you do lose him,
I'm almost positive the Lions are going to re-sign Jamal Williams.
but David run between tackles, put his shoulder down, and get you those short yards.
Another guy I'm looking at the wide receiver ranks. Of course, this is all speculative. We're talking about if the Lions don't decide to re-sign DJ Chark or Jamal Williams, who they could go with to fill those roles. A familiar face around the city of Detroit, a guy that is aging but is still very effective when he's out there, Marvin Jones.
Yeah,
Everybody loved Marvin Jones when he was in
He's an
Detroit.
ex-receiver.
He was an ex-receiver. He's a big play guy. He showed he could do a lot. He showed he still had it a little bit in Jacksonville. He had this year, where is it? Let me see.
Dude, in that playoff game,
46 receptions for 529 yards and 3 touchdowns.
he absolutely ran one of the coldest routes in that playoff game, and it might have been the last touchdown, to be honest, when he cooked Asante Samuel. He was running like a little bit of a bench route,
Yeah.
and he shook him to death.
Yeah,
And he still has it.
We're not saying these guys are going to be long-term contracts. You're going to have them for no prove-it deals, prove-it guys like that. Bring them in, see what they can do. Give them a go. Marvin Jones will probably be on a little bit of the higher side because he's not dealing with injuries or anything like that he has to prove anything off of. But if you lose DJ Chark, you could bring in a Marvin Jones, and that could be a guy that can fill that role for you while kind of being a mentor to a Jameson Williams and to an Amon-Ra St. Brown, because he's been in the league for a while. He's been in Detroit before and was very successful when he was in Detroit.
I'm liking these names.
Yeah, he can give that perspective too of I was here when Detroit was dog shit. You know what I mean? This is so much different than when I was here originally. So he can give that ultra perspective there. But how you guys were saying about defense, I was looking. I think Marcus Peters would be phenomenal because he's obviously a big name in the league, but he's been getting heat over the last 2 seasons because he's been getting burned, and I just think it's been under coaching in Baltimore. And when you look at what Detroit does on defense, they run a man-to-man concept. Obviously, Aaron Glenn likes that, and Marcus Peters, when he's playing his top football, is one of the best press corners in the league. And if we can get a DB late in the first, have him learn behind Marcus Peters, and even for Akuda's sake, it could do something special.
I actually love that idea, and I loved it before for other reasons. But you add another benefit to having a Marcus Peters, a guy who's been in the league a very long time, has been constantly competitive in the league as long as he's been in it too. Remember when Darius Slay had, what is his name? Rasheed Mathis.
Yes.
Yeah.
Darius Slay, and I have a personal relationship with Darius Slay, and he constantly, time and time, over and over again, even in the media, he's been very upfront about how much Rasheed Mathis helped him up his game and get used to the league and get comfortable. And now Darius Slay is one of the better cornerbacks in the entire league. Mm-hmm. Get you Marcus Peters. Again, maybe on that 1-year deal or whatever you can get him on. Draft you a Christian Gonzalez. Let that kid learn from Marcus Peters. You still have Akuda and Jerry Jacobs you could throw in the slot at that point. I love that idea, dog. I really do.
Because Marcus is a dog, too. He's not one of those guys where if he gets burnt, he's going to be like, Marcus, if he gets burnt, he's going to be pissed in your face. He's going to be pumping that electricity through that defense, too.
He's chirping. Another guy I'm looking at on the receiver list,
Marcus Peters,
and this is one that people might not like, but you got to think, Amon-Ra St. Brown is your alpha in that room. Jameson Williams, you expect to step up and be a big position, a big help next year. What about a guy like N'Keal Harry? That is the definition of a Brad Holmes project pick.
Yeah, that's actually
a former
right.
first-round pick, a guy who hasn't worked out in different places. You could bring him in. He's 6'4". He's a big body. He hasn't had the success in his career that people expected, but you don't need him to be this ultimate factor in the offense. You don't need him to be the number 1 option. You don't even need him to be the number 2 option.
Yeah.
In the receiving core. You could just have him come in here, take some of the pressure off him, get him on a small deal, and see what he can do.
That's the perfect example of a Brad Holmes
Very
signing.
similar to a Charles Harris, to a Frank Kaminsky, to an Isaiah Buggs, to these guys who were former high draft picks that didn't really pan out in their former positions. And then you could bring them in, pay them some money, and see what they can do. Get them on a cheap deal. No harm, no foul.
Let me see. I'm looking up his 40 time.
What do you guys think about the possible return of A'Shawn Robinson? I would honestly like that
I just
because
can't see it. I like the idea of it.
You don't think so?
I mean, maybe.
It's a whole different culture. I think
Yeah.
Deshaun, a Bama guy, like he knows what it's like to be coached tough. He's probably a big football guy, and I think Detroit right now is the most attractive place because I don't think. I mean, I know Aleem's there, and if we don't bring back Bugs, it's going to be opening there.
Yeah. I gotta be honest, because when I look into the receiver free agent market, I'm looking for like someone to do what DJ Chark did for us, just because we saw how that clearly opened up Jameson Williams throughout the season, and just him and Goff were on that type of like level and a chemistry standpoint. I'm looking for a guy that run that 4.3, 6'4" frame. It's hard to find. Even N'Keal Harry, big guy, but I looked up his 40 time. It's a 4.5 in comparison to like a Chark, you know.
Is Kevin White a free agent? Kevin White's
He was
probably a free
supposed to
agent.
be
He's
a
probably
real
sitting
deal.
on one somewhere.
He was supposed to be a dog. Now we're talking. I mean, maybe that's one that Brad Holmes does draft. You know?
Oh, Jalen Guyton, the free agent with the Chargers. He's coming off an injury. That would be a good one because he's one of those guys that can absolutely take the top off of a defense. And if you have him and J-Mo on the field with them on, I don't know if you can cover that matchup wise, especially if you have Jamal. Like you'd have to back the safeties up so far if you had J-Mo and Jalen Guyton on the field at the same time. I don't think you'd be able to cover that.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all the names we were talking about, which one do you think excites you most?
I would like Darius Slayton when I'm talking about receivers.
Yeah, what
For
about
me.
running backs? I mean, include everything.
Yeah,
Pool all together.
probably Darius Slayton.
For real?
Yeah, I think he could be a good piece. And again, this is not people that were like, I see Luke G talking shit in the chat, other people talking shit in the chat. We're not saying, oh, you're bringing these guys in, signing them to a 5-year contract, they're going to be your stud. No, these are the Brad Holmes signings that Brad Holmes has shown us he's done in his first couple years, where you get a guy in here that maybe needs to prove something, give him on a cheap 1-year deal or 2-year deal and see what he can do. And Darius Slayton would be a good fit for me.
I really like Slayton too because, I mean, even last week he was balling out. He had that drop, but before that he was carrying.
See, they're just talking shit in the chat. Luke G, why not bring Jamie Collins back while we're at it? John Jones, I heard Van Noy is a free agent.
I would very annoying. I mean,
That's why we're not talking about
Yeah,
him.
we haven't heard us say those names. You know, Slayton's runs 4.3, 4.39. Can play the X position. Yeah, when I'm talking receivers, I'm looking again for someone to replace that role that.
If they don't re-sign DJ Chark.
Because we're talking, we obviously, people are talking about B.J. Robinson, bringing him this Ben Johnson offense, see what he could do. But like, we don't necessarily need to do that because there are guys that fit the characteristics of Brad Holmes' free agency signings, and that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Again, to reiterate this to the chat, we're looking for the Brad Holmes, the characteristics of a Brad Holmes free agent, the Charles Harris, the Alex Anzalone, Jamal Williams, Deshaun Elliott, DJ Chark, guys that want to come here for 1 to 2 years and prove themselves onto a bigger contract.
Yes.
Or just that they want to stay in the league. Charles Harris was that. You know what I'm saying? And then you re-up him another one.